Hey everybody, I'm Sierra.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome back to another episode of The Unsolved Couple, where every week Ben and I recap one of the original gateway drugs into true crime.
Unsolved Mysteries.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
It's 2025.
Well, when this comes out, it is, yeah.
Okay, well, don't give away the magic, Ben.
I think we've given it away a few times. You know, when we start, what you need to do is you need to do like those TV people, you know, when they're like, all right, everybody, in 10 seconds. And then they count, and then they give at the last three, they give the finger signs. You know what I'm talking about?
Do you need a countdown?
I do.
There's two of us in the room.
I know, but
not an entire crowd of people.
I feel like it'd be cooler. You know, if I had a finger countdown from you.
No.
Yeah.
We're not gonna do that for
I'd
you.
appreciate that.
No.
Can we start a petition for
it's
that?
2025. We have survived the drones and the aliens in the ocean. We've made it to the other side. And who knows what the year has ahead of us. At this point, I think all of our bingo cards are full and we're ready for anything.
Do you think we're going to find out about these drones on the East Coast by the new year?
By the top of the new year? By the time this episode drops? No.
You don't?
Mm-mm.
Do you think?
One of two things are going to happen. Either we're going to find out something here in the next 30 to 60 days, or because we have the attention spans of gnats, we're never going to hear about it. And in several months, when someone's like, hey, remember those drones? We'll be like, oh, yeah, whatever happened with that? And something else will happen. Because that's how it seems to go when you look back on insane things that are happening in the world. We tend to forget about them very quickly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah.
I already forgot what we were talking about.
We're talking about the new year.
Okay.
So yeah, welcome back, guys. We hope you guys all had an amazing holiday, amazing New Year's Eve. We hope that whatever goals you guys have set for yourselves, you excel at this year.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, I did think of something that I wanted to do that I thought would be fun.
Oh, I can't wait.
This is one of my favorite things since starting this podcast.
This is news to me, guys.
I know. I like to spring things on Ben. So I thought it would be fun to name some of the new cities that we got downloads in today.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So today we got a download in Nashville, Tennessee.
Sierra's pretty excited about that.
That's my favorite place. Well, one of my favorite places. Manchester. It just says Manchester. Lombard, Illinois. Illinois. There's an S on the end of Illinois. Is it S silent?
Right.
Illinois.
Nope, that's not how you say it.
And Henderson, Nevada. So I don't know. Oh, it's kind of cool to kind of say where we've gotten some new people listening to us. So welcome to all of those people.
Our podcast is so small, we can name the cities that
they're being downloaded in. And on that note, please make sure to share us with your friends.
In your city or others.
Yeah, we'll take any city.
Right.
Yeah, so welcome. Okay, so we have 5 stories to cover in this episode, and I am so excited because I got a text message from Ben because he had started watching this before I think I did, and it was just one word. Do you remember what it was?
It was probably a curse word.
No, it wasn't a curse word. I don't know if I want to give it away at the top of the episode, but
who cares? We're going to end up talking. I've already said how angry I would be if this came up. And I'm really upset.
I honestly did not think we would get to it this early on. I did not think...
Bigfoot. That's what's
coming.
Bigfoot.
That's what the text message said. And I got so excited because I love all things Bigfoot. So yeah, we've covered aliens. We've covered ghosts. and now we're covering Bigfoot.
Missing Time.
Missing Time.
I still think, as of right now, that's, I don't want to say favorite because I didn't like it, but that is the hands down the most ridiculous story to date that I've watched on this.
I don't know. I think the psychic inserting herself into all of the like police stuff.
Now, that's just a crook and a fraud,
Yeah.
you know, which those people manifest themselves in all different kinds of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But the missing time, I don't think they weren't inserting themselves. I think that one guy got so caught up in it that he was creating it.
Mm-hmm.
But the one guy telling the story, like, to him, it really happened. Right?
Yeah, and I don't discount to the people that they believed it, but you're talking about the guy that like compiled all the books and was doing the hypnosis and everything like that.
And I don't think he wasn't making anything up, but I think he was trying. He had what he thought it was, and he was gunning for that explanation. But that doesn't make him. That doesn't make him a fraud.
No. Mm-mm.
But anyways, we don't need to get into.
We don't need to rehash
anymore.
that because tonight we're gonna talk about Bigfoot.
Yes,
so we
I
have
know.
4 other stories, and then we're gonna end on Bigfoot so that we can get after it.
Oh dear.
And I'm excited. Okay, so Ben is gonna start us off tonight. Go ahead, babe.
All right, we got our first story is going to be about Mickey and Trudy Thompson. This is in California. We hear a little bit about their history, especially Mickey Thompson's history. He was a go-getter. He loved everything racing, everything. He wanted to go fast constantly. So, Unsolved Mysteries tells us about what he did in his life. In the 60s, I guess he built the first car, a homemade Challenger that went 400 miles per hour.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
What's the fastest you've driven in a car?
Me?
Yeah.
Over 100, 110 or something.
Yeah, that's about where. And I guess I wasn't driving, but Ben's brother is a car enthusiast, and he's got a certain car that he's been obsessed with since you guys were teenagers,
he's got
right?
a Cobra, a Shelby Cobra.
Yeah.
Mustang.
And so he's taken us out on it before, and I think 100 to 120 is somewhere is kind of where that tops out on,
that's where he
back roads as far as where you can drive it
but
safely anyway. So, but yeah, to go 400 miles an hour is crazy.
So he created a business with this racing. I guess he created the slingshot racer, where it's kind of the first drag racing where you sit behind the rear axle.
Okay.
He kind of created that. He got into other indoor arena racing. He was huge in it. And I learned this later. Unsolved Mysteries doesn't tell us. He started a tire company, which to this day is still, there's Mickey Thompson tires out there.
Okay.
Therefore,
yeah, they didn't give us a lot. They said he was into racing and he was involved in it, but we did not get a lot of information as to what he did career-wise.
He created that tire company in the 60s. Super successful, still successful to this day, I guess.
Okay.
Off-road, all-terrain tires. I actually never really heard of them, but I don't do any off-road racing or anything like that.
And we didn't grow up where racing was a big thing.
No, and he also started a company of parts, high-end parts for off-road and making cars go fast.
All right.
So that's where his wealth and his business came from. So that was his whole life.
Yeah, because we're going to find out later. He's a very, very wealthy man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess in the 70s, he got in a boat racing accident and was paralyzed from the waist down. They told him he would never walk again. He figured it out and he walked again. So
yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. So he was married to Trudy, and we're going to find out about his death, unfortunately, because on March 16th, 1988, Mickey and Trudy Thompson are going out. They're heading out to go to work. They work together. I'm guessing she worked in the business. And
it's early in the morning. They're leaving early.
Mm-hmm. Early in the morning. And neighbors hear gunshots. Mm-hmm. Call the police. The police show up, And Trudy and Mickey are dead in the driveway of their home. So,
and it was sad because, and you're probably going to get into this, he had mentioned that he had some fears about specifically his wife potentially being, her life had been being taken.
His sister gets interviewed in this episode, and she says leading up to their death, he was worried for him and his wife's safety, especially his wife. He'd been receiving death threats. And that's all they say.
Yeah, we don't get any further information. We don't get any
of why he would receive death threats. We're going to talk about it. I looked into all of this.
Okay.
But it was very confusing in the story. Again, I know we've said this many of times, but they do a terrible job of telling
Yeah, they don't tell us what he did for a living. And
no,
then
all they tell us is he
all
loved
of the
racing.
sudden is that he's receiving death threats. And from what I know, the racing world, it doesn't seem like that is a death threat industry. But like I said, it was confusing because then for it to end up happening in the front driveway of their home.
Because by 1988, Mickey's like in his 60s. So he's not racing. He's overseeing events. He's hosting this stuff. He's running his businesses.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They give you the bare minimum information.
Yeah.
Anyways, police come. They start doing an investigation. They rule out robbery.
Yeah.
Because
the wife was loaded down.
Had over $70,000 worth of jewelry on her.
That is, when they said that, my jaw hit the floor. $70,000 worth of jewelry.
That was in 1988.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty good with it. What do you think is close to?
Well, at this point, it's a little under 3 times. So you're talking $200,000, almost $200,000. Probably a little less than that, but at least $160,000 worth of jewelry on her. Rings, and the detective even says it wasn't hidden. He said it wasn't like a necklace tucked into her blouse. It was very obvious that she had a lot of jewelry on. Then she had $4,000 in cash in her wallet lying on the driveway. Which I guess adjusted for inflation, if you're like 2.5 times, you're looking at close to $10,000. Yeah, so clearly to them, that makes them believe this wasn't a robbery. Yeah. It appeared that someone was lying in wait, and when they went to go leave for work, they shot the sister tells us that they lived by their schedule and that it wouldn't have been hard if someone had been observing them to know that they were very routine in their day-to-day activities. Yeah. So a neighbor said that at 6 a.m, he heard a round of gunshots. He went to the window and looked out. He could hear some yelling. He said he could hear Mickey saying, "Please don't hurt my wife." And he said he heard that multiple times. Then he heard another round of gunshots. And he said his wife was calling 911 at the time. He asked his wife to call 911 while he kind of observed from the window. And he continued to observe from the window, and he saw what appeared to be 2 African-American males riding bicycles, 10-speed bicycles, out of the area. They lived in an affluent neighborhood called Bradbury, California. I don't think I said that earlier. No, but yeah. But it appeared to be a very nice neighborhood. Yeah, it was outside of LA and kind of tucked out there in the hills, supposedly. I don't know. I've never been there or lived there. We haven't been invited to anyone's house in that neck of the woods. I haven't gone there. So that's where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us. Mm-hmm. They give us a description of the 2 males that they... there's a police sketch. They said that at the time there was a hefty reward being offered. Yeah, the family was offering a $260,000 reward to help try to find these people. And they said some witnesses had described seeing those 2 men in the neighborhood a few days earlier riding bikes around. So that's who they're looking for. Yeah. And they had done a composite of them. They show those. If anyone has any information, let us know. Contact the police. Okay, what's our update on it? So we got a little bit of an update on the episode.
Yep.
But I looked into it more.
Okay.
So 13 years later, a man by the name of Michael Goodwin was arrested for their murder. So Michael Goodwin was a business partner of Mickey Thompson, and he was, and another eyewitness had come forth and said that he saw him a few days prior to the murder sitting in a station wagon outside of the house looking through binoculars.
Yeah.
And he was tried for the murder and convicted and is sentenced to 2 life sentences.
So that's the update that Unsolved Mysteries gives us. And it seems to me, from a viewer standpoint, very flimsy.
Yeah. So, and they even in the update interview Michael,
they interview his attorney
as attorney, and he's pretty much, they have no case. So I dived into it more.
Okay.
And this is what I can give us on this, and I'll try to be clear as mud on this.
Okay.
Because I was curious.
Yeah, because if you're getting convicted because someone saw you in a station wagon near or round about the house, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, they did mention that there had been some sort of financial dispute, but terms had been set and agreed upon.
That's what the lawyer said.
That's what the attorney said. Yes.
It's not true.
Okay.
100% not true.
Continue with giving us.
So if anyone is interested in the story, because it was a big story, these people were clearly very well known and big in this industry. There is a documentary on Netflix. It's newer. It's called Homicide Los Angeles, and episode 2. It's a 50-minute episode. It's very well done. I didn't watch all of it, but I went through it and watched. I wanted to get some information because the first 20 minutes is just of the murder.
Yeah.
And of course, they give you more detail. Like the wife was shot in the head.
Oh.
They were shot assassination style.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't just.
This was intense. Yeah.
Yeah. So they do, the first 20 minutes is just talking of that, but then they talk about. So Michael Godwin was a suspect from the beginning.
Okay.
Police knew about him. Michael and Mickey had gotten into business around 1984, roughly. Don't quote me on that. Michael was a businessman. He wanted to do some racing stuff with motorcycles. I don't know all the details, but what happened is Mickey went into business with him. After a few months, he was a crook. He wasn't paying stuff. I don't know everything. Turns out Michael cut his ties with him, and they ended up suing him. And he was winning one after. They ended up in court multiple times. And Mickey was winning, and he was getting judgments.
Oh.
And Michael was complaining. He was upset. He was trying to like file for bankruptcy. It turned into these nasty, bitter disputes for years.
Okay, so this
to
was
the point,
an ongoing dispute between these two men.
He was calling Mickey on a regular basis, threatening to kill him, threatening to take his life. You're not gonna get me for anything. His brother or one of his family members was even there one day when Michael had called Mickey, and Mickey put him on speakerphone, and he was yelling and threatening his life. So there was multiple people.
Okay. This guy was unhinged.
Multiple people that testified and told the police that this guy had been threatening to kill him, threatening to take his life. That's why the sister had said that.
Got it.
And Mickey was getting concerned. He was telling family members
if something happens to me, this guy is making threats.
This guy it is getting worse. And it was over during their whole court proceedings, all this stuff.
Okay.
So the police went to go talk to Mickey right away. Mm-hmm. The minute they show up at his office, his lawyers are there, and he will refuse to talk to him.
I mean,
a few days later, he has liquidated assets to the point, I guess, for fraud. And him and his wife set sail on a sailboat out of the country and leave the country for several years, like 5 years.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do that.
But he wasn't charged with anything.
Yeah.
He wasn't technically, so.
Remember when P. Diddy tried to flee right before his charges got brought? Just a casual hop here in my private jet. No big deal. Don't look over this way.
So Michael ends up coming back to the United States around 93, 94. He actually got charged by the FBI for fraud and got sentenced to 2.5 years in federal prison. Does some time, gets out. The police have continued to look into it. Their leads are going dead. It ends up getting passed to a detective. He's speaking on this documentary. He does a really good job.
That's what I like about this show. It interviews a lot of the people that were the law enforcement side that was involved in these. They have a New York season too that's really good.
Yeah. So he gets this case. He's digging in. He looks at all of it, re-interviews everybody, even to the point he found a new witness. And the reason this witness, there was a 15-year-old girl at the time across the street who actually saw the murders.
Oh.
They end up finding her, interviewing. They'd interviewed the parents, but the parents didn't want their daughter being interviewed.
Yeah.
They find her years later, and she says, "Yeah, I was getting ready for school. I heard something outside, gunshots. Looked out the window, and she said she could see Mickey on the ground with his hands up, a man with a gun, and his wife, and he was yelling, 'Please don't hurt my wife, please don't hurt my wife.' They walked over, shot her in the head, then turned to Mickey and shot him and killed him right then and there. Supposedly she saw the whole thing.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that poor girl.
Yeah. Anyways, Michael gets out of prison. They're on to him. They actually started wiretapping. They got to the point, I guess, the detective tells a story that he was flying back to LA. He pretended they had them lose Michael's bag, and he pretended that his bag was lost too, and he sat next to him while they were trying to wait for their bags, and he recorded his voice while he talked to him because he wanted to make sure that on his wiretaps he knew exactly who Michael was talking.
Wow.
He did a really good job.
Yeah.
And then they found his ex-wife who divorced him while he was in prison or after they got back from wherever they were at.
She was like several years on a boat with this man. I'm out. Yeah.
She was living in Virginia. They wiretapped her, and to get her talking, he ended up calling her and be like, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you about your ex-husband." And she pretty much told him F off, but then she started making phone calls. She admitted on a wiretap that Michael had confessed, that had said to her that he had killed him.
Yeah.
Another girl that dated him.
So did he pull the trigger or did he actually hire?
So he facilitated it.
Okay, he facilitated it. Got it.
Yeah. And another girl that he had dated or whatever had called the police and said that he had come back. So there was multiple people that had come forward and said.
So at the end of the episode, even with the update, it said that they were still looking for the two actual gunmen.
Yeah. They're never found.
They've never been found.
No. So.
Wow.
Yeah. And this Michael continues to profess his innocence.
Of course he does.
I will say, and they do a terrible job. The witness that came forward and said that he saw him, I guess they featured this story on America's Most Wanted. And this guy had actually come forward shortly after the murder multiple times. He came home. His wife said, "Hey, there is this guy. Very suspicious. He's been sitting out there with binoculars. I don't know what he's doing." So he went out and walked up to the car.
Oh, so he had a full-on interaction with this person.
He didn't know his name. He said he saw a white gentleman sitting in the driver's seat and an African American gentleman sitting in the passenger seat. As he walked up to the car, they took off.
Got it.
So they ended up somehow, they ended up getting him in a lineup, and the guy and the wife both picked him out.
Yeah.
So it was, anyways.
So there was more things than just...
The reason I'm telling that is because the way Unsolved Mysteries tells it, it makes the case seem very circumstantial.
Well, and for an attorney to get up and be like, all of the disputes have been finalized and they were all like done and over with any stuff.
No, and when you hear it on the documentary, they went so far to build this case.
Yeah.
They didn't just, a couple people. They went to great lengths to put this case together. And he got arrested in 2001. It took 5 years for the trial to actually go through. The trial went on for 2 months, took 6 days for the jury to deliberate, and he was convicted. It's even gone to an appeal, and the court's like, no, dude.
No, we're good.
So, yeah. So he is in prison for the rest of his life. But, yeah, the shooters technically
have never been found.
Caught. But that's
interesting.
That's your story.
Okay. So our next story that I'm going to tell you guys about is about Michael and Sharon. This is a husband and wife couple. Last name is Mohan. Okay? This couple is wild. December 31st, 1983, police in Fountain Valley, California were called to the scene of a reported burglary. Okay? They soon become involved in a high-speed chase with the suspects. It ends in a parking lot of like a condo complex. We're getting this reenactment video with Unsolved Mysteries. Yeah. It's very much like cop style, right? It's like point of view camera. We are getting out of the police car. Officer Kevin Arnold, and we're going to come back to him later.
I learned about him too. But that has nothing to do with
That has nothing to do with this, but just put a pin in that name. Runs after one of the suspects, and he tells us, he's interviewed on this episode, that he expected this foot pursuit to go as every other foot pursuit does. He basically chases the person down while yelling at them to get on the ground. The person complies, and he said, we handcuff him, and that's the end of the problem. Like, pretty straightforward. And he wants us to know that, however, this foot pursuit did not go that way.
No.
So Michael, the man that he's chasing, is really at this point not going down without a fight. And somehow these two men end up in a altercation, like face-to-face fighting each other. They are struggling, and the officer alleges that Michael tries to turn the officer's gun around on him and shoot him. Fearing for his life, he shoots his handgun into the air.
Well, in the reenactment,
several
they're fighting over
times.
The gun.
Yes, they're fighting over the gun.
He says he's trying to unload it so that he can't get used
by shooting the bullets into the air. Is that protocol? I would love to know.
It's the 80s.
How many times have firearms been shot into the air in just the few episodes we've done?
I don't know.
I don't know. Please don't shoot bullets into the air, people. It's not safe.
Time out. President Biden told me I could take my shotgun out and fire 2 blasts in the air.
Please do not follow that advice.
I'm just saying.
But he also then mentions that he has a second service revolver. He's able to get that out and shoots at Michael several times, hitting him 6 times.
6 times. He unloaded his revolver on him.
Unloads it onto him. Michael, though, totally fine.
Lives to tell the tale.
Who gets shot 6 times and lives to tell the tale?
I was thinking about this. Hollow points weren't a thing back then. So bullets, it's a through and through.
Okay. I don't know the difference.
And a
hollow point is more dangerous?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because it just tears you up.
Got it.
But these are just...
the projectile of a regular old-fashioned bullet just goes straight through and does less damage. And I'm guessing that tiny
little revolver he had, it's like a little .38. So
is it common for law enforcement to carry 2 guns? I don't know. I need to ask some of our cop friends if they carry a second. I guess I haven't seen that. Anyways.
I don't carry a
Michael's
second.
fine. Nobody worry about it. He's going to go on to be okay. So he's arrested, obviously, and he is in police custody for about a year awaiting trial. on this burglary and trying to evade police officers.
Well, it's an attempted murder.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. We don't know what his charges were. They never tell us. Trust me, this is going to be the first
do at
of
the
his.
end. They tell us his charge.
Oh, of his. Well, I thought of a different one. No, okay. I thought that was of the second story that we're going to get into with him. So, in the meantime, he has to undergo physical therapy.
I would imagine.
And
with 6 bullet holes.
I was like, why is this guy? Physical therapy to me is like a luxury, right?
I think when you have
And
6 bullet holes, everyone is entitled
when the cops
to physical
put 6
therapy.
bullets in you, they're like, yeah, we're just going to get this guy some
I think the city
therapy.
kind of got to put you through physical therapy after they punch 6 holes in you.
However, physical therapy is not available at the local prison, the county jail.
I don't think it's available at any prison.
No, So he has to be taken from the local jail and taken to the hospital. Okay? So, Officer Arnold then lets us know that while being transferred back and forth between physical therapy, Michael hears a nurse having a conversation with somebody else.
He's real quick to throw it on
He
the
throws
nurse.
her under the bus.
He throws that nurse
so
under the
fast.
bus so fast.
So apparently they weren't supposed to, this is my assumption by his comments, talk about when, I guess it was supposed to be random. Like he wasn't supposed to know
He's
when
not
he
supposed
was.
to know when he's going to physical therapy.
However,
For
the
this
nurse makes a
exact
comment
reason.
about how he's supposed to come back on January 17th. This is in 1985, right? So, hey, that was just a few weeks before you were born.
Thanks.
So this was going on, and
Thanks for telling
Ben was
everybody.
just a cute, cute little baby about to be born. All right, so
You too.
we're going to find out later that Michael must have really been paying attention to the nurse's conversation because he leaves the prison on January 17th, heads back to the hospital for physical therapy. As they go into the back door of the hospital, Michael is walking ahead of the officer, which from my understanding is protocol that you follow behind him. However, Michael stumbles and falls to the ground.
Right as he gets in the door.
Right as he walks through the threshold of the door. He turns around and pulls a gun on the police officer.
This poor guy.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. He then proceeds to handcuff this police officer.
Well, he has the police officer handcuff
himself, and then he takes his other set of cuffs and handcuffs him to like a metal pipe on. And I'm going to guess this is probably not a commonly used area of the hospital. I would love to know how long that police officer
I got a lot of questions.
ended up being attached to that.
I want to read the memo on that.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
Dear Chief, no one was more surprised than I.
I was shocked when this guy in the reenactment turns around. That was the last thing I was expecting.
I'll be honest, did not see that coming.
I was like, oh, he
wrote
tripped and
that
fell. What
script-
happened? And all of a sudden, this guy has got a gun in this guy's face. I'm like, holy cow. Yeah, I bet that police officer was like, that took a turn.
Yeah,
that I was
bet
not
when
expecting.
he tells stories, he leaves that one out.
Yeah. So.
I mean, we all would. I am not.
No.
This is not me disparaging this.
We're going to find out in a little
sucks.
while how this was orchestrated. The officer would have had no way of knowing that this man was going to
Right, sorry, I'm getting us
magically
distracted.
find a hidden gun in the corner of a hallway of a hospital. So he hops into a truck and they skid it on out of there.
Yeah,
Turns out
there was a truck waiting for him outside of the hospital.
they pieced right on out of there. And the lady driving the truck was none other than Sharon, who was his wife. And it is also believed that she planted the gun in that hallway for him.
Yeah, so he told her when he was going to be back.
Yeah, I mean, it is
so she
quite
plants
genius.
a gun in the back, then sits there and waits and is his getaway driver.
Yep.
Find me a woman that loyal. I am telling you. That is one loyal woman.
No kidding. And here's even the best part. We don't know exactly how, but within a few days, Sharon's in custody.
Well, they suspected it was her. I mean, she ended up confessing.
Yes, I get that, but he's still on the run.
So
and
she breaks
gets
him
caught.
out.
She breaks him out.
And then he leaves.
And she gets caught.
Yeah.
And don't worry, people. We're going to hear more about these two. It gets better.
This is a Hollywood
I know. This is a modern day Bonnie and Clyde, I guess, without the murder.
Yeah,
exactly. So she's charged with aiding and abetting. She pleads guilty to the charges, sentenced to 3 years in jail, put on parole, and believes to, at this point, rejoin her husband. Okay? However, Michael, we're a week later. So we just got Sharon's kind of quick.
That's what happened to her.
Yeah. Now we're back to Michael. So he's a week later. So she gets caught within a few days. However, a week later, he's randomly in Mesa, Arizona.
Yeah, he is.
We don't know exactly what happened, but something is triggered. And once again, we are in a high-speed chase with this man.
The police officer tries to pull him over.
He loves to drive fast in these vehicles. It lasted for 2 hours, reaching speeds of up to close to 100 miles an hour. 8 different police departments had to end up being involved because of how far the chase went. A helicopter is also involved. Finally, somebody makes a suggestion to set up a barricade.
That's
it works.
Not what they said. They just said that finally they got him into a barricade.
A female showed up and said, "Hey, why don't we just block this guy off?" And all of the police officers that were just really excited to finally get to drive fast were like, fine, Sharon, let's just put up a barricade. And then everything was taken care of. Okay. So,
right. According to Sierra.
So this stops Michael and he's arrested. And the police want us to know that he was friendly and calm, which was kind of odd for them because this man had just taken them on a high-speed chase.
For 2 hours.
For 2 hours. So that evening, he
in a white Bronco.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
That's a different story for a different, and that's not an unsolved mystery anymore. So over the next few hours, he's interrogated by detectives. And it seems like there's this weird cat and mouse relationship going on that even the investigators he's telling it is kind of into. He was giving him a false name and kind of playing coy and making jokes and just was kind of goofing with the investigating officer.
He wasn't telling him the truth.
Yeah.
This might come as a surprise, but he was lying.
He was not. Yeah, he was not to being forthcoming. Yeah. So, including not even telling him what his name was. And so, the next day, the following morning, the detectives have their little morning coffee muster, right? Not mustard, muster.
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 Not mustard. What in the world? Seriously?
I don't know. They're looking through new reports of wanted people. And they come across...
They get a bunch of flyers.
Yeah, they get a wanted poster of Michael. And the detective is like, that's the guy that's in custody for that high-speed chase last night who would not give us his real name.
What are the freaking chances?
That is wild. That is... Karma really showed up quick for this one. It made me think,
because we get bolos across.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you're going to start paying attention to those bolos a little bit more.
We're like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
anyways, go on.
However, unfortunately, unknown to the detectives and investigators, which are different than your beat cops and your kind of lower level police officers, Michael is currently in the back of a police van, shackled to 7 other inmates being transferred to the county courthouse. Yes. So that's what I'm saying is the detectives have their own little circle and their own little meetings. They are not aware, obviously, of what is happening in the other areas.
Well, he's been arrested and charged, so now he has to
Now he has to go to that. Exactly. So now I'm going to tell you one of the most wild parts of this story. It's, you guys, clearly the gun.
Protocol has changed since this. I can tell you this 100%.
The gun in the hallway is unfortunately not the most wild part of this story. So, this sweet little deputy who is in been tasked of taking this van full of, I'm going to guess in their mind, low level or low threat
Well,
criminals.
they're all newly arrested.
Newly
people,
arrested.
clearly.
He's got to take them to the courthouses, right? And so it seems like he's gone to one courthouse. However, he's got to stop at a second courthouse for one inmate only. So what does this man do?
I'm going to guess that was the protocol of the day.
Yeah, I'm
Because
going
they
to
tell
guess
it like
it's no big thing.
this is normal.
This one deputy pulls up to the courthouse on the street. No like secure
Parked on the
parking,
street.
no nothing. He is parked on the street. He gets the one inmate unshackled, takes him out of the car, click, click, locks the van, and walks away.
There's like 4 or 5 in the back of the van.
What did they say? There's 7 inmates plus there's 8. So now we're down to 7.
I think he said
7
he took 2 in.
inmates, and he has taken 1 or 2 into the courthouse and says he was inside for about 10 minutes.
So he left these guys in the back of a van parked on the
wild.
street.
I wouldn't even do that. Like, I feel guilty when I have to like run in and pay for gas and I leave my kids in the car. I cannot imagine.
No, this would not happen today. But
That officer, when he walked back out, and we're gonna find out Michael and another
All right, keep
inmate
going.
kick open from the inside. They kick the glass out
To the driver's area.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. There
the
was
escape.
obviously no gate locking these people in. There was no partition, I guess, between like where the car could be driven.
I don't know.
I don't know. They're able to get to the glass. They kick it out, and him and another guy
Escape.
peace on out of there. I would just have loved to have been a fly on the wall when that officer walked back out and thought, is my window broken?
You know he's thinking, man, I don't want to call this in.
I really don't want to have to call this in over the radio. Do you think he got crap for that at the station for like the rest of his career?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He will always be known as...
He probably didn't. Just for the fact of if that was standard protocol.
Yeah.
Then no.
Then no. So...
I mean, people probably gave him a hard time
yeah,
just because
I am
that's
sure.
what you do.
I just... Yeah. This was... To me, as I'm watching this part of the episode unfold, I was like, no, there's no way.
That, he goes,
There's no way this man's going to tell me that he just locked the van and walked inside.
But he says, I was only gone for maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, that ain't no thing.
I almost am like, you guys are mad that this man escaped? What?
How has this not happened before?
How is he the first person to think, wait, well, you're just going to leave us
You're
in
gonna
here?
leave us here while you go in there?
All I have to do is break out some glass? Yeah.
All right, keep going.
So at this point, Michael and another inmate, like I said, they've kicked out the window. Across the street is the ASU campus.
Arizona State University.
Yeah. They run through campus. They show these 2
Taking
very
their shirts off.
athletic men ripping their clothes off and running through
Sierra
campus.
was in it.
I was like, dang, those guys are ripped.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those extra
Words you've
actors
never
have
said
been
to me.
putting in the work. What'd you say, honey?
Said words you've never said to me.
Please. I just thought it was funny that like these guys, why did they rip their shirts off in the reenactment?
Probably because it said like Department of Corrections on the number.
It just seemed like a Matthew McConaughey moment. And we all know Matthew McConaughey cannot be in the movie without taking his shirt off.
It's in his contract.
It's in his contract. So they steal a pickup, and the pickup they stole in the reenactment was
freaking
sweet.
awesome.
I want that truck. So
it's an old 80s Ford.
It was awesome. It was like jacked up. It was so cool.
They stole it from a mechanic shop.
Yeah.
I was like, that is actually genius.
Smart. Yeah, because they're going to always have the keys inside. So they flee.
Don't go stealing trucks, people.
Don't. We did not give you any suggestions. So we later find out that the other inmates that were in the van that chose not to participate in this were actually female. And they claim
So
that
they
the
thought
plan
it
was
through.
originally to kill the officer and then like steal the van, and they somehow talked him into like not doing that.
They said when he came back, he was going to open the door to put the prisoner back in. They were going to jump him,
Take his gun,
take his
kill
gun
him,
and kill
and
him,
yeah.
and escape.
Yeah.
But
And
that didn't
so
happen. Thankfully.
It didn't happen, thankfully. So, and I think from my side researcher, they might have even said in there, I think a couple of the people that were in there were like getting ready to be done with. Like they were
Yeah, they
finishing
said
out their
they were
sentences.
practically
They
done.
were just like,
and they don't want to be.
we don't want to be involved. Yeah.
So do something else.
Yeah, I
Pretty
do not
much
want to
what
be
they
dragged
said.
into this. So, authorities at this point are asking for help because they believe Michael has hooked back up with Sharon, his wife.
So that's where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us.
And they're still on the run together because she's technically now in breach of parole.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still yet to serve a sentence.
Well, he hasn't even
gone to trial.
For the original.
Okay. You ready for your update?
Ready.
Captured.
Yeah, I know. I saw.
So,
And I did some research on these.
on April 19th, 1989, Michael and Sharon were arrested outside of an auto parts store in Mobile, Alabama. They were using aliases and had been living in a trailer behind the house in the outskirts of Mobile. A viewer contacted the FBI shortly after watching the Unsolved Mysteries episode. I need to come up with a sound whenever Unsolved Mysteries is the one who got a thing solved. It's like a ding, 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 ding. Okay. They called and said that she recognized Michael as the man who had recently painted her house. On July 7th, he was returned to California prison, and Sharon was also returned to prison for violating parole. The attempted murder charges, were dropped, and he was sentenced to 16 years in prison for assault and armed robbery, and both served out their sentences and have since been released. Okay? Now, quickly back to Officer Arnold, the original arresting officer who unloaded his gun into the sky. He is later convicted of embezzling money from the police union.
I saw that.
And was killed by the FBI when they tried to arrest him for a bank robbery in 1995.
Yeah, so he robbed a bank. They tried to arrest him, and they got in a shootout, and he was shot.
So I would love to know where that guy's life took a turn.
Well, it took a turn from when he tried to steal from the police union.
I understand.
He got fired for
that.
And then he went and started robbing banks.
Yeah, but man, what a life to go from like this beat cop to being gunned down by the FBI for being a bank robber.
Well,
so,
when you
and weirdly enough, and I don't know for sure if this is him or not. I tried to follow up and do some more research.
I did too.
To see, did this man ever get arrested again?
Did you find what I found?
Yeah. So Michael Wade, what's the last name again? I didn't write it down. Oh, Mohan. Okay. Someone by that name passed away on January 17th, 2021 in Benson, Arizona.
I know.
You guys, as the crow flies, that's what, 20 miles from us?
20, 30 miles, yeah.
Yes. We literally go to Benson every so often, and it looked like at one point he owned a piece of property in St. David. These towns have like a couple thousand. We were literally in St. David last weekend. Yeah. So now I need to ask around because we do have some friends that live in St. David and some friends who also live in Benson and see if anyone knew this man. But I would even wonder if anyone knew about his past.
Well, so I was curious because someone like that, clearly, this guy just did stuff on a whim. You don't just decide to run from the police beforehand. Like, you just do it.
No, that's his inability to have any sort of impulse control seemed to be lacking. I was shocked that he didn't have further criminal record.
I was looking for further arrests, anything else he had done. I found the same thing. There was no obituary for him.
No, I was bummed because...
And I couldn't find anything on Sharon
the
either.
Obituary links, when you read the description, had some information, and then when you clicked on it, it said there was no obituary available. I even tried to go through the Benson newspaper, and then there was an article that said Like I was the partner of so and so, like, and it was a nickname, and I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. But when I clicked that link to read the interview, I guess it was by Sharon, it said that the interview was no longer available.
Yeah, so I found him on like one of those ancestry websites.
Yeah.
And it led me to the same link from the obituary on Benson. And it gave me a date of birth, which I think he was like 70 something or like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly. So we don't know, I guess a caveat, we don't know if it really is him.
Yes,
but it's the
this
same
could
name,
be a different Michael.
and it appears. When I looked at the time frame, it would have put
Yeah,
him
the
in his
timelines
30s
match up as
would have
much
put
as
him in his-
information as we had.
But they never tell us how old he is in the episode, so
Yeah.
I couldn't quite match up if they were in the. But with how old he was when they said he passed away, I did the math. I was like, oh, he would have been around in his 30s in the 80s.
Yeah.
Which is probably about on par. Because the guy had, they said, when he'd gotten arrested for that,
He had a long criminal
he
history.
had been arrested.
And he seemed to love disguising himself and giving fake names. It's almost like it was a game to him. He liked
that's why I
changing
was
his appearance.
surprised to not find any more. And maybe he did. It just never really made the news, and you're going to have to dig into arrest records and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, from what I could see, at least if this is the same guy, it seems as if it is possible, at least in the later part of his life, he lived a quiet, remote. I mean,
You can't.
Sierra
you can't name
Vista.
them both.
I know. I'm getting them all mixed
You gotta
up.
pick one.
Benson, St. David are very tiny,
They're
remote
not big
areas of southern Arizona. So it's an easy place if you just kind of want to be quiet and left alone to go live at.
Yeah.
So
And maybe he fell in love with the desert when he was down here running from Mesa PD.
yeah, he was driving around Mesa for 2 hours and was like, "Oh, it's beautiful here."
Yeah, but Benson's not close to Mesa.
Nowhere near Mesa. Okay, all right.
That's it. That's our escape.
There you go.
All right, are you ready for the next one?
I am.
This is a boring one. It is.
I
You
wonder.
know it is.
I
And that's
wonder
why
if
you gave
eventually
it to
these
me.
will fade out. These stories.
What's that?
These lost air stories.
I
I
don't
wonder
know
if
why we
eventually they'll
keep-
fade out because I don't know what. It's almost like they needed time to fill and they pull one of these in.
They could have filled, they could have put something in other than the Alcatraz one last week.
Oh, that was a lot. All right. Well, give it to us quick. We'll get onto my story because it's a sad one.
Yeah, okay. We've got we got a man that's supposedly got a bunch of money and they don't know who to give it to. His name is
You
George.
could also be a criminal too. So
Oh, don't even get started. Okay, so they first start out by telling us on November 12th, 1936, in Ripton, Wisconsin, a man by the name of George J. Stein opened up an account and deposited $120. Gives no social security number, gives no identification, just opens the account, puts money in, and leaves.
okay.
Okay? Well, George J. Stein never takes out that $120.
Yep.
Turns out, from the period of 1936 to 1952, he opens dozens of accounts across the Midwest and deposits money in them to the point where today, aka 1988, it totals $130,000.
Okay.
So they tell us of the accounts that he's opened, that supposedly he'd opened 3 in Minnesota, 3 in Indiana, 1 in Iowa, 1 in Illinois, 5 in Wisconsin, and possibly, but they're not 100% certain, 1 in Texas. And those are the ones.
So, and in the
They're pretty
reenactment, he
certain.
literally is like putting cash in an envelope and sending it into these
So
banks.
he opens these, he's mailing these different.
That is a wild concept to me. Can you imagine today throwing in a couple $1,000s worth of cash into an envelope and just sending it to the bank and hoping eventually it'll pop up on an account somewhere?
Yeah, you log into your app and it's there. No.
Yeah,
not how
that's
it works.
wild.
But, I mean, you're talking 16 years of opening accounts and putting money in, but never withdrawing a single dime.
That is The only thing to me when they kind of talk about later about the potential criminal connection, I'm like,
No. No way.
you don't see it?
No.
Okay.
It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but opening up 16 accounts and never touching the money doesn't make sense
honest,
either.
Nothing about this story makes sense. Okay, so we get 2 investigators, and they interview them. So they're pretty much looking anyone that can claim that they can prove that they are a relative of George J. Stein, who they don't think that's his real name,
can have the money. And
So
they're
you're
asking
supposed
for
to
a
be able-
signature.
Yeah, that matches his.
I could not tell you any of my relatives' signatures. Could you?
No,
No.
couldn't even tell you mine. Anyways, they're looking for an heir to claim this money.
Okay.
Okay. Tom Becker comes in and he investigates it, and he comes up with one clue. It's the only clue we got. According to him, one of the accounts that he'd opened in Indianapolis, he gave the address of 505 Washington Street in Indianapolis. It turns out it was a gentleman's store for gloves, hats, and
back when men dressed like real fancy.
so. But this is the weird part. They don't even tell us how. Supposedly,
Well, yeah, then all of a sudden he's a hat salesman or something. Or
they think that this George J. Stein, it was an alias. They supposedly got a description that matched the description of George J. Stein. I think I just said that super confusing. They had a description of George J. Stein.
yes.
They go to the men's store.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And they say the description of George J. Stein matches the description of a man, a traveling salesman called Ralph Barnett.
Who sells like gloves and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tom Becker, who's the investigator, thinks that Ralph was just traveling around the country, depositing money that he didn't need.
Mm-hmm.
And then
He's just a traveling salesman.
And then he met his demise, and so that's why he was never able.
They also suggest maybe he was murdered, which I was like,
he just says, he says,
he just seems to disappear.
He says, I believe he met a sudden demise, car accident, murder, heart attack. He lists all the things that would possibly kill someone right away without them knowing it was coming, right? Okay. My question, why would he hide who he is then and deposit money all throughout, but then never take it? If your name is Ralph Burnett and you are a traveling salesman,
mm-hmm.
why not just use your name?
I don't know.
Doesn't make sense. All right. Anyways.
Yeah. So investigator number 2 has a different theory.
Frances Skoll comes up with a second theory. She says that on one of the envelopes that he mailed money to a bank, he wrote the name Ed Fay and had a return address, but not really a return address, a city and a state, which was somewhere in Wisconsin when they showed the reenactment.
Obviously, this guy, though, giving the address of the gentleman's store or whatever, this guy obviously, for some reason, was very aloof about his money.
Clearly. But they said all the other addresses were either post offices or YMCAs.
Yeah, what?
I know. Anyways, Francis is keen on this Ed Fay. He, in 1903, with a bunch of other guys, robbed a post office in Wisconsin.
Oh,
and they stole $15,000.
And?
Stamps.
What?
Was
stamps valuable back then? Did I miss a memo of the high value of stamps that...
I don't know.
What? When they said that they stole $15,000, okay, and a crap ton of stamps, and that's the direct quote from Robert Stack. He says a crap ton of stamps.
No, he doesn't. That is a lie. All lies.
But why do you steal stamps? That, to me, I was like, can we get a little bit... That's the real mystery here that I would like to know. Why? Why did we steal all of the stamps?
I don't know. You can sell them, I guess.
I can't.
Big money back then. Big deal. All right. So that was in 1903. I think I said that.
Yeah.
He gets arrested, only does a little bit of time, breaks out of prison, and is never seen
Well, they think
again.
his gang breaks him out of prison, and it's like horses and cowboys.
Well,
It was a
in
whole.
1903, that what
It was awesome. The reenactment was legit.
Well, that was actually during Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yeah, there was a yeah.
At that time.
Yeah.
Were robbing stuff back then.
What year was like Tombstone and all that? That was earlier. That was way earlier, wasn't it?
Earlier.
Yeah. I feel like
I
being
don't
in
know
Southern
exactly.
Arizona, we have a lot of this sort of like cowboy bank robbery, like jailbreaks,
train robbery stuff.
yeah,
like
that kind of stuff, and
I like
all
that
on
stuff.
horses.
I've been listening to a podcast on that, on all these Western stuff. It's called Tales of the Old West. And they do seasons on different guys. I listened to one on Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Jesse James.
Yeah, very interesting.
It's pretty
more
cool
interesting than this Lost Air that I don't know how anyone's ever going to find this money.
If you guys are bored, go listen to that right now. Just turn this off and go listen to
No,
that.
come back because I've got good stories to tell you next.
Anyways, she thinks this is him, but here's my question. She thinks that he just decides to
What was the address like, or the name on the envelope, a Freudian slip? Is that kind of her guess?
Or he just...
And this is his way of washing the money? This is like early 1800s money laundering or early 1900s money laundering?
But it's not like the guy was sitting in prison for decades.
Yeah, but he also escaped.
Okay, that's my question. This is why I think her tale is full of crap. Because she thinks that then all of a sudden he's taking his money and putting it in banks from 1936 to 1952. Okay?
Yeah. Spreading.
Just do the math here.
So what was he doing what was the first deposit?
What was he doing for 30 years with that
okay,
money?
Fair point.
And then all of a sudden, you're telling me...
But did more bank and money regulations come out in those 30 years where now he's almost trying to like launder this money?
No.
No?
I don't know, but I don't think so.
Well, I heard if you open a car washing business, that's a great place to launder money.
That's a show. Get out of here. But in 1952, I'm doing the math here.
Okay.
We don't know how old Ed Fay was, but if he's robbing a bank at 19 years old in 1903, in 1952, the guy is 70 years old and he's still trying to go around dropping money. They didn't say the guy was a super old guy.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think none of it makes sense. I'm not it. No. I'm not here
did
for her.
Anyone ever find...
So 5 people had tried to get the money and failed. No, it's never been. I actually still found an article about it like a year or two ago.
Oh, really? Still looking? It's never been claimed.
No one's still. But I think, how do you claim something from even the person that owned it you know nothing about and can't prove anything about?
Well, he gave false addresses and false names.
You don't know who this person is. So how can you tie yourself to a ghost?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
You can't.
No.
So, anyways.
It is crazy to think about how much random money is left with no one to give it to.
Yeah.
We should it should be like Monopoly, where it all goes into the middle.
And
like if you land on free parking, you get the pot.
What's free parking? What would have to
free
happen in your life
parking would
to get
be
it all?
being born on March 6th.
Oh, get out of here.
I don't know. We could have like the Hunger Games, the free parking. I don't know. That's let's just all put it in the middle and divide it equally amongst ourselves. How about that? Okay. That's just a little bit of humor before we get into this next story that is sad.
Sure is.
It is. Okay. So this story is about Joyce McLean. She is a 16-year-old girl. She's popular. She is well liked. She's in high school in the tiny little town. It's like a mill town, which I grew up in a mill town. And this town is called East Millinocket, Maine. So I
like that name.
It's like Andy Milonakis from the TV.
I knew that you were going to go there.
I got bees on my head, but don't call me a bee head. I swear only 50 people ever watched that show before it like disappeared into the wind. And me and my siblings sing that song all the time because my dad actually liked watching that show and my mom would get so mad at us. And I've sung that song thousands of times in public to people, and they look at me as if they have no clue what I'm talking
It's
about.
because they don't know.
No one watched the Andy Milonakis show, but
Everyone
I did.
that's listening right now doesn't know what
Well,
you're
go
talking
look it
about.
up because it's awesome.
All
The
right.
Apple skit is the best one.
All right,
Okay,
just
anyways.
get to it.
So she displayed extraordinary music talent. She played in the school orchestra. She composed her own music. She was also an honor student, a cheerleader, an officer of the student body. I mean, this girl had what you would consider a very bright future. She was an all-American small-town girl. And they show pictures of her for the time. I mean, this is in the 1980s. Early 80s. She has got the hair, everything. She was stunning. And they kind of talk a little bit about this, that kind of before this had happened in this small town, no one locked their doors. Children were out playing. And then on August 8th, 1980, that feeling is kind of taken away from this town. When Joyce McLean's body was found brutally murdered behind the high school soccer field. So the population at this time was only about 2,600 people. I grew up in a town of just about 3,000. So
I think it was about that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, small town, and it being solely based on, people working at the mill and things like that. Like, this story in a way hit home because
for you, huh?
Yeah, because of the girl that was murdered, who was I believe it was in 1997, Stephanie Condon. To this day, her murder has never been solved. It did the same thing. It was like all of the sudden we were all kind of reminded that this kind of thing can happen anywhere at any time. And it stole that sense of security. We had never locked our doors either. In that age, I was in 7th or 8th grade. I was left home alone. I babysat. I walked to the park. I did a lot of those things. And then that happening in a small town takes that sense of safety away. So this town all gets together and forms a petition and ends up gathering 6,000 signatures that they send to Unsolved Mysteries to air her story.
Yeah, I saw that.
This town really seemed... There's interviewed multiple people from this town, including her mom. They want this solved.
Yeah.
So around 7:30 at night on Friday, August 8th, 1980, Joyce goes for a jog. This was part of her routine. She would jog to the high school and run the track field. And, or do loops around the soccer field. At around 7:45, a witness saw her turning the corner to go down towards the softball and soccer fields, as she usually does. She was never seen again. When she did not come home that night, her mom, Pam, became concerned, and a search soon began. 2 days later, a search volunteer named Peter found her beaten to death in the woods behind the soccer fields. Her death came as a great shock to this community. Knowing that a killer was on the loose, many residents began to fear for their safety. Children were discouraged from playing outside after dark, and residents started locking their doors, which, PSA, please lock your doors. At this point, it's not known exactly the events that led up to her death, but the law enforcement or the town have several theories. I will say small towns are great for a lot of things. One of the things that they are terrible with is rumors. And
again, they just throw out theories with no evidence.
And it seemed like rumors and theories of what happened that night got out of hand very quickly. There was people that thought that she was killed by local teenagers who liked to hang out at the soccer field and drink and have bonfires, which that's crazy that a high school would allow a bonfire and drinking at the high school, but okay, whatever.
It's summertime.
Yeah, still, man. Summertime. And that they had started harassing her with the intent to sexually assault her. Then there was a theory that there was some day laborers from the local paper mill who had recently, they'd hired a certain amount of people from out of town, that these out of town people obviously had something to do with it. So here we have your usual suspects, a group of teenagers
Out of control.
or out of towners, right? To date, no one had ever been identified as a suspect. As the years passed on, the community of East Millinocket refused to let Joyce's murder be forgotten. On the murder's 8th year anniversary, they actually held a candlelight memorial service by most members of the community. So that's kind of where it leaves us.
Yeah.
With Unsolved Mysteries.
Sure does.
What?
It sure does.
Yeah. So this case is actually solved.
35 years later.
35 years later. So it was not, unfortunately, Unsolved Mysteries did not contribute.
I think it was, 2018 he was convicted?
2016.
Okay.
So Pam, the mother, had been really big about pushing in the early 2000s about actually having her daughter exhumed for potential search of more evidence with obviously new DNA technology and things like that. I don't know exactly if she was able to have that happen or not.
She did.
She did? Okay.
I read that she had it.
She was able to do it.
But
so
it didn't do anything.
Okay, so that didn't provide anything, but it did spark the curiosity for this case to become reopened. New evidence was found after a new witness had come forward, implying that a man named Philip Scott Frontier was the man who had committed the murder. In 2009, he was officially named a person of interest, and in March of 2016, he was arrested and charged with Joyce's murder. And they let us know that he'd actually been considered a person of interest from the beginning.
Yeah, you know why?
Because of the car accident? No, why do you think?
I know why.
Okay, why?
Because he went into the police station with his pastor and confessed to it.
Oh, so
months after.
Months after.
The May after.
So this is the problem.
Yes, I know.
This is a problem that I read about that. One, this man confessed to his family, his pastor, to police, to anyone that would hear him. The problem is, and I'm not saying whether this absolved him of any guilt or any way, shape, or form, but several days after this murder, this teenage boy, I think he was about, 19 at the time,
19 at the time,
broke into somebody's house, stole a car out of their driveway.
He broke into a business and stole an oil truck.
Okay. See, Ben's paying more attention than I'm.
I read at least 4 or 5 news articles on this.
Yeah. And
Each one would give you a little bit more detail.
Yeah, and that's so things were not everything had all of the information. So
he stole the truck the day after the murder.
Okay, he gets into a horrific car accident, ends up in a coma.
Yeah.
For 3 weeks?
Don't quote me now. It was either 5 days or 5 weeks. It was a while.
It was an and had been reported to have extensive brain damage.
He had a severe head
traumatic brain injury.
I know. I'm just telling you why he.
Yeah. After this brain injury, he starts confessing to loads of people. And this is hard because we covered that case about the other girl who had the brain injury.
Uh-huh.
And because we got to see her interviewed, you saw, and because obviously she wasn't being suspected of anything bad, you saw this kind of side of how much she did not have the mental wherewithal to make a lot of choices or have a big memory. She, in fact, still to this day, or at least at the time, had no memory of things leading up to it.
Yeah.
But he confessed multiple times to multiple people, and none of them were really always the same. They were always a little different. So, the big problem that he ended up facing was he had several previous convictions and was actually brought on the prosecution or his possession of child pornography, burglary, and theft.
That. Yeah.
So clearly, he wasn't a good guy before his traumatic brain injury. I don't know what kind of help or support he had afterwards, but he did not continue or have the support to make good choices or be in a safe place, and continued to not make good choices. So he pled not guilty for the murders and asked for a trial by judge. I even read a news article that the judge came out and wasn't really happy with the evidence against him. Did you read that article?
I don't know if I read that one.
Yeah. So in January
There's a lot.
There's a lot on this, and
I'll tell you of one of why I think he very well might be guilty.
Okay. In January 2018, his trial began, and on February 22nd, he was found guilty of first-degree murder. And then in April, he was sentenced to 45 years in prison, and he tried to appeal his case, but the conviction has been upheld.
That's what I said. In 2018, they held up.
2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Okay. So, yeah, I only did about 25, 30 minutes of this. I feel like you could really do a lot more digging in on this.
So, from what I had is the reason it was shortly after he wakes up from his coma, he goes through therapy. They said that by January, he's deemed to be better. May, I guess he calls his pastor in like the middle of the night and says, I have to talk. Tells his pastor, I did this.
Mm-hmm.
Pastor ends up saying, listen, I'm not going to believe you unless you bring your parents and confess. Tell them what you told me.
Yeah.
So he does. So they take them down to the police station. And the police say, listen, they don't. No. Then he confessed to, in 1988, somewhere around there, he confessed to a coworker at a school. He's working as a janitor at a college, and he confessed to him. And he came forward years later.
Yeah.
That was the evidence they had to convict him. The only evidence the defense brought forth is that he was in this car accident, had brain damage.
This brain injury, yeah.
So that his confession couldn't be taken seriously. Clearly, the judge thought it was enough to convict him.
Yeah.
I read in one article. Take this for what it is. Because I do think there's a lot of people that are going to hear him like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. He was convicted. He was sentenced. In one article, he was interviewed. Supposedly, he was interviewed by the police a few times, and he confessed to them.
Yes.
So, she had her hands tied behind her back, and her head was smashed.
Yeah, she had been beaten to death.
Yeah, she had a massive skull fracture. But she was not sexually assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they didn't have DNA.
Yeah.
The police asked him, why did you not sexually assault her? And he said, because for a woman, it was that time.
And that was...
And that was true, and that was evidence that they never released.
Okay, yeah.
Now, take that for what it is.
Yeah, and I didn't read that in any of the articles.
I read that in one article.
Yeah.
So that was kind of one of the prosecution's nails. So with that being said, I do think that definitely strengthens their case.
So, I
guess he had confessed that to the guy at the school.
Okay.
Also.
Well, my heart breaks for this family and this community.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. This is a terrible story. This girl goes out for a jog and is brutally murdered.
Yeah.
And really, we have no motive as to why. I mean, other than if he had planned on assaulting her and was so turned off by the fact that she was on her cycle that he didn't, and maybe that enraged him and so he beat her. I don't know. Because of the type of trial it was, he never really gave a motive.
Yeah, and take that. I only read one article that had said that.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if the other articles just left that out or what.
Yeah,
but,
and they did mention that there was a softball game going on, like on the next field over. There had been some teenagers at the soccer field. So my heart breaks because and this didn't happen. It's summertime at 7 o'clock at night. It's still light outside.
Yeah.
This girl goes out for a run, probably never thought for a second that she was in any danger.
Yeah.
And there was people so close to her on either side of this kind of wooded area. And
It's
just
terrible.
terrifying. Okay. So now we're going to end the episode with...
Oh, I forgot.
You forgot.
This.
You thought we were done, didn't you?
I did. I did think we were done.
Bigfoot. Da, 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 da. I am so excited to talk about this.
All right.
Okay.
So we get told Robert Stack comes in and talks to us.
And he is in a puffy jacket. He was looking sharp.
Sierra like
He was peak 1980s snowbird.
All right. Get out of here. We get introduced because when we all hear Sasquatch, Bigfoot, we think of the Pacific Northwest.
As it rightfully should be. Colorado, get out of here.
But this is stories from Pikes Peak, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
We first hear about a man named Dave Messia. Yeah.
And his son.
Yeah, March 27th, 1987. He supposedly goes out and he notices tracks in the snow.
His son notices the tracks.
Yeah, tells his
says,
dad.
"Hey, Dad,
And they look and
come
they're like,
check this out." They got no clue. And he
Yeah.
lets us know he's an avid outdoorsman.
He's an expert, a self-proclaimed expert in tracks. Okay.
Okay.
So then on a hunch,
Mm-hmm.
him and his son just hang out and watch TV all night. And he says every 15 to 20 minutes, he's getting up and looking out the window. And 1:45 to midnight, he sees two creatures walking around. One of them was around 5'7". The other was around 6'2" tall.
Yeah.
That's impressive, Dan. So the morning he goes out and there's these big old tracks. One of them is a foot long.
Mm-hmm.
The other one was 8
And we see the
inches.
pictures because
And
Dan
he
is
takes-
here for. He is interviewed.
He takes pictures
Mm-hmm.
to the point where he's in the news and in the newspapers. Interesting, Dan.
'Kay.
So then we hear about Jeremy Swisher, who says in 1978.
Oh, no. You missed the expert that we hear from, the animal physiologist. Ben, don't be jumping the gun. We got to hear from the expert.
Yeah, he has
He
a model.
shows up with a plastic foot.
Did you notice how many toes are on that foot?
How many?
6.
6 toes.
Yeah.
And he's turning the foot upside down and showing us all of the ridges and the different features that his assumption is that this foot would have likely made similar prints in the snow, and that it is based in the same similar format of a primate's foot. And up to his knowledge, primates do not live in Colorado. Okay? So the experts are important in this.
They're not experts.
He is an animal physiologist.
Oh my gosh, get out of here.
Okay?
All right, are you ready to hear about
Well,
Jeremy
they tell us that this guy's in the news. Dan is in the news.
Don't
And
care.
after he's in the news, 12 other witnesses in the area come forward sharing similar experiences. And now let's take a moment to hear from a few of those, shall we? Ben?
Some of them want to be anonymous.
Which to me adds credit to their story.
No, it
Because
doesn't.
if you saw something weird, you would not want anyone to know you saw it.
If I saw something weird, I would probably just chalk it up as, I don't know what it is. I don't know.
You don't know?
You know what? I have a story for that,
Okay.
and we'll get into it
Okay.
later.
All right.
Okay.
So 12 other witnesses come forward. Several years earlier, a man named Jeremy and several friends are out hiking near Pikes Peak when they encountered Bigfoot, a creature that was about 6 feet tall, very hairy, and another friend had witnessed this man this creature running towards them.
On the other side of the road.
On the other side of the road. And they got so scared that they pieced out of there.
Yeah, they hightailed it.
Then, this is where we get our anonymous guy. He's all blacked out. He's interviewed.
Yeah.
And he says he was driving home one evening, snowy, cold night. And he sees a big hairy creature
covered in hair.
Walk in front of his truck. He stops and gets out. He's sure it wasn't a bear, but he's very scared.
Or a human.
But it was a human-like figure covered in long, shaggy hair.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, in August of 1988, a creature breaks into somebody's cabin and rummages through the back.
This is the biggest. Golly.
Okay. And the back door is damaged in this. The next morning, as the homeowners are evaluating the damage that has been done to their cabin, 2 kids notice that several hairs have been snagged in the window frame, and there's footprints around the house. So Unsolved Mysteries
Yes, they did.
has this hair sent off to a university in California, of which we get an interview of a man who tests this hair.
He sure did.
And confirms that it is from some sort of chimpanzee / potential. It's not fully chimpanzee, not fully human, but has characteristics of both.
No. That's not what he says.
100% that's what he says.
He says at the end that he's tested it. He rules out everything, and it's either human or chimpanzee.
Mm-hmm. But it's not distinctly one or the other.
He literally says at the end, or it could be. He literally says it could be from a freaking human.
No.
It could be. He says that at the end. He says.
So, Unsolved Mysteries even then
you're
gets
telling me,
a...
No. You're telling me.
An artist to come in, interview these people, and do an artist rendition of what they saw. And magically, Ben, they all look the same.
You're telling me that the hair you tested from a break-in could possibly be a human.
No, it couldn't be. It was Bigfoot.
He literally says it could be human.
Oh, okay. So that's...
It's a human.
Robert Stacks lets us know all of these sightings have happened after a brand new develop up against a national park has shown up. And, that a lot of people don't necessarily believe these things to be true. They usually chuck them up to hoaxes. But is it... and one guy isn't even interviewed said this could potentially be the breakthrough of a century if we're able to figure out what these creatures are. So, the truth is out there.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you think of that?
I thought it was a load of crap.
No, Ben. No. You're from Oregon. You have grown up with Bigfoot. So, okay, you're from the city area. Okay, was Bigfoot as big of a deal around the Portland area?
Of course it was. Yeah, I grew up in Portland, but go outside of Portland, all it is mountainous trees. And
there's Bigfoot statues everywhere.
Bigfoot is a big deal.
I know. So yeah, I grew up in a small town, Southern Oregon, and Bigfoot has been a part of my life my entire life. Every time I've gone camping, I remember one time we went on my dad's side of the family, we rented cabins, and I'm sure my parents could tell us where this was because I was too young to realize it. But the whole campground was about like being a Bigfoot hotspot. And I remember going on hikes and adventures and just wanting to see Bigfoot. My dad has a Bigfoot story from when he was a kid. So Bigfoot is real, Ben. Okay. 100%.
I like the idea of Bigfoot. It's fun. It's great to tell. We all enjoy it.
You don't think it's real? You don't think that there's a possibility that a small mammal of some sort lives deep out into the woods and there's just not a huge, vast population of them that we've ever been able to like discover?
Sure, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Anything. But there's no skulls been found, no bones. And people have said these things have existed for centuries.
Yeah.
But we've never found evidence of them.
Well, there's video and
You
photographic
gotta be
evidence,
kidding
and
me.
we have like people have taken plasters of these footprints that are found out in the woods.
All I know is the only evidence we have of Bigfoot is that one time a family ran over him and they strapped him to the top of their car and they brought him home.
That movie, Ben is referring to Henry and the Hendersons.
Harry and the Hendersons.
That movie made me into the animal-loving human being that I am. If I hit anything with my vehicle, I would bring it home and try to nurse it back to life. Ben, would you be surprised if you walked in the house one day and there's a bobcat in our house and I'm trying to like take care of it?
No, I wouldn't be surprised by anything you bring into our house. So here's some of my skepticism.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll actually be honest on this one. I will not say that Bigfoot 100% does not exist. I like the idea and I would love for it to be true, but I'm not going to buy into it.
With the evidence that there is right now.
I'll give you this. Even with some of the evidence, I'll say possible.
And
possible.
I will
that's
say,
a lot
I know
for
that
me.
people lie, and I know that people want attention. This Dan guy getting all the attention in the news and stuff like that.
So here's my thing.
I don't think people are above that by any way, shape, or form.
What doesn't make sense is supposedly these creatures live out in the wilderness, just like every other creature out there. Okay? Who we've seen, we've documented, we have evidence, real evidence, either have caught them, all that they exist. But supposedly he just lives out there in the woods. And yet he's so smart and sophisticated that he can evade pretty much all detection, all evidence, besides very minute, small evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So you're that sophisticated, you're that smart, have that ability to evade all of this for centuries and decades, but yet then you just live in a cave in the woods?
Yeah, I don't know. The amount of eyewitnesses are crazy to me. And like I said, you even want to say that half those people are lying for attention or just want to be a part of something. Okay, cool. You still have hundreds, if not thousands, of eyewitnesses spread out over hundreds of years. For Native Americans to have the name Sasquatch for something like this, do you know what I mean?
I'm saying it's possible.
This didn't just pop up in the 1980s after Harry and the Hendersons came to...
Well, no, Harry and the Hendersons was from all these stories.
But that's what I mean. For Native American history to also speak of a creature like unto this.
That's what I'm saying. It's possible. But there's all these other things that exist that we have then narrowed down.
Well, we only discovered actual evidence of the giant squid a few years ago.
That's different. The ocean is completely undiscovered.
Yeah, I mean, they discovered a brand new terrifying creature like called Darkness or something terrifying just a few days ago, and it looks like it's out of an Alien Predator movie.
We know so little about the deep ocean.
Yeah.
So little. So that's different. We have explored so much land.
Yeah. No, I bet
we live on it. We don't live in the ocean.
I truly believe that Bigfoot in some form exists. Now, could it be that we don't understand or that some of this has been misidentified? Or, I mean, it's just so hard to it's hard to imagine, yes, that there hasn't been actual like physical evidence of a dead body or different things like that that have come up. I don't know. Is it possible that Bigfoot exists and has the intelligence to bury their dead or something? I don't know, but I truly believe that somewhere out there is truth in these stories and the history of Bigfoot.
Again,
And Colorado, don't be trying to come up into the Pacific Northwest territory.
I'm just
Bigfoot
saying,
is ours.
I'm just saying it. Again, it goes back. I said this before. I think a lot of people see things that to the point where
They can't
they
explain.
jump to that instead of working through. And
Yeah.
let me give you an example.
Okay.
When I was first in my job, I was working nights. We were sitting on top of a hill, and I was looking through night vision goggles. It sounds way cooler than it really was.
You guys, my husband is awesome.
No, and I heard something behind me. Now, I'm new to Arizona, okay?
Okay.
We've only been living here literally 2 or 3 months. And I look behind me, and I see this small creature with this long tail behind it.
Oh, yeah. These creatures are weird. And
it
if you haven't
freaked
lived
me
here,
out.
it is weird to
Never
see
seen
them.
anything like it. And the first thing I thought, that was a mountain lion, right?
Yeah, long tail. Yeah.
But in my mind, I knew that wasn't a mountain lion.
But your
I don't
brain
know.
is trying to connect the dots.
I'm trying to figure out what this thing is, and I couldn't. And I think I only said it to you. I never said another word to a soul after that because I never knew what it was. Years later, I'm sitting on top of a hill, and I see this thing. And I'm like, what is that? Grab my binoculars. I look. And I'm like, I've seen that thing before. And I turned to the guy I was working with. I was like, what is that thing? Because now it was daylight.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that's a Cudamundi. I'm like, what?
And you guys, I promise you, that is not a word that we've made up. This is a real animal that lives down here in southern Arizona.
I have now I've only come across them 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, I've actually never seen one, but I don't go out into the desert.
But I've seen them up close. I was probably within 15 feet
Yeah.
of these things. They look like monkeys, but they don't. They're not.
They
They're
look
the
like
weirdest things.
ringtail or like lemurs in a way too. Yeah,
I took a video of one
it
and
is
showed you.
not what you expect to see in southern Arizona.
But the point I'm making is I never even heard of these things.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never seen it. And what I saw, I couldn't explain. And later, it came out.
Yeah.
Now, I know I'm probably off a little bit on this, but what I'm saying is we sometimes see things. We don't always know what we see. And again, goes back to what I said, there's
Whatever with
sometimes
the
a
aliens, yeah.
logical explanation before we jump to Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's it.
So, there you guys go. That is... Oh, we never even said what episode this is. This is season 1, what episode 18 of Unsolved Mysteries. You can actually, I would love if you guys would all stop what you're doing, get out your phones, find us on Instagram, Unsolved Couple Pod on Instagram, and follow us. And then I would love for you to go over to your streaming platform and leave us a 5-star rating and review. They really do mean the world to us. They help us go far. We're a small independent podcast. We do everything in-house on our own. And it is the one thing that you can do. It doesn't cost anything to help us continue to keep this ball rolling. Okay. So with that said, I have our question for this episode.
Okay.
Okay. Ben, are there any, and I'll give you the full range of mythical creatures that you think either do exist today or at one point did exist?
Okay.
Okay.
You said what's my full range?
Full range, dawn of time. I don't care.
Oh, you just telling me that's in play. I thought
Yeah,
you had a
full
list
range
for
of
me.
mythical creatures.
Okay.
Pick your battle. Which one do you want? Are there any that you at least know of through lore or whatever that you think are possible to exist today or in the span of history existed at one point?
Dinosaurs.
Okay. I don't know if I count dinosaurs as a mythical creature. We have bones and plenty of scientific evidence to back that up.
All right. I would have to say no.
No. None.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But I got a funny story.
Okay.
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 This goes back to the prior episode that my IQ is not high. Okay?
Okay.
I think you're going to know where I'm going with this.
Okay.
There was a creature I did think was made up. Up until probably, less than a year ago.
No, less than 5 months ago.
Yeah. I thought it didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
This is public school failing me, okay? I truly thought the narwhal was not a
You
real
guys,
thing.
No joke. So as you guys know, Ben and I enjoy listening together to the Nateland podcast. Okay, we listen to it on long car rides together. And they're sitting there having a conversation, and Dusty Slay, who is a really great comic, his special's on Netflix.
He's awesome.
He is the devil's advocate in this group of men, right? This group of comics. And he's big in conspiracy theories and rabbit holes and so on and so forth. He brings up this.
What he looks like, you're like,
yeah, it tracks.
That tracks,
right? And he leans into it. It's all part of his persona, and I think a lot of it is his
shtick.
Personality. Yeah, but he's hilarious, and he has a daughter, I guess. Anyways, he was reading a book, and I think it was an alphabet book about animals, and N was for narwhal, and he feels like in his mind that narwhals just kind of appeared out of nowhere a few years ago and that they're made up, right? And that
I'm with Dusty
most
on
of
this.
us remember the narwhal from what movie?
Oh, Elf.
Yeah, Buddy the Elf, right? What does Mr. Narwhal say? Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad. Exactly. So he's saying that these animals don't exist in real life. They're made up. And I am like rolling my eyes and I'm like, oh my gosh, how could you not know what a narwhal is or not know that it's real? This guy, like I was laughing at the fact that anyone could actually believe this, that this was a real statement coming out of a grown man's mouth. And I turned to my husband who looks at me and is like, I'm just now finding out that narwhals aren't fake.
Well, first I said I'm with Dusty on this. I do think I to this day.
No, Benjamin David, there is plenty of video evidence that they exist. I will say there is no narwhals living in captivity, and I am a big fan of animals, so I support the fact that we don't need to have these in captivity, but they have plenty of documentation of these things existing. Okay? So
this is yes.
Anyways, but
so
yeah.
If you're asking me,
but so you found out that a creature that you thought was a mythical creature that lives in the ice caps of the 7 Candyland forest, you found out that was real.
Well, technically, it's a mythical creature that does exist.
It's not a mythical creature; it's a biological creature that is.
In my mind, it is a mythical creature that does exist.
Okay, that's hilarious.
I will say. It's embarrassing that I have now admitted to the world, but it goes back to what I said prior. My IQ might not be that high.
I don't think the narwhal was a fair point. It's not in a lot of children's books. It's not a highly talked about
but when
animal.
It is, it's literally introduced in things like Elf.
Yes, I think that was probably a lot of people's first introduction.
So I blame
into
Elf.
It.
Really.
Oh, it's all Elf's fault. Will Ferrell, you are to blame.
I blame them for my incompetence. All right. And what do you have any mythical? You probably believe in all of them.
I do believe in all of them. So I'll give you my spiel. I don't remember who it was. I must have been in junior high or high school, but I got into it with one of my friends at school. I don't believe these exist anymore, but I do believe at one point dragons existed.
Okay.
And here's my small amount of evidence. is kind of goes back to the same thing as the Native Americans. We have writings and documentation from ancient civilizations describing things like unto dragons or griffins or sphinx or other mythical creatures.
Do you notice how she just lumped in all mythical
All of them.
creatures? So if you just dragged
Unicorns,
one or the
whatever.
other, it's
Pick
the
your battle.
same.
Which one you want? That if you like cross-reference these readings where these people would have had no communication with each other, they describe a lot of the same things.
Okay.
Oh, I believe in mermaids 100%.
100%.
Yeah, I believe. You know what? I will say the only thing I don't think I believe in is the Kraken. That seems a little too big for my liking.
That's
That's
a
the
bridge
line.
too far.
That's a bridge too far.
Okay. Got
Yeah,
it.
I believe in all of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Do I think that all of them still exist to this day? No. I think a lot of these things could have gone extinct. No problemo. Do I think some of these things still exist today? Yeah, absolutely. I believe in unicorns. I even believe in
Fairies?
fairy realms. Yep, 100%.
Oh my word.
I believe in all of it.
Okay.
Okay. So that's.
Hey, I believe in narwhals now. So
And Ben believes in narwhals, which are the unicorns of the ocean. If a whale with a horn like that can be under the ocean in the water, a horse can be like that on the land.
okay.
But fun fact, do you know that it's not a horn? Just so people don't DM me. What is it on the top of its head? Do you know what it's considered?
A tooth.
A tooth. So there's your educational fun fact. All right, guys.
All right, let's get out of here.
Yep, we're going to bounce. So we thank you guys again for joining us. And Ben and I will be excited to see you again next week as we recap one of the episodes of Unsolved Mysteries. Bye.
Bye.